to concentrate on the inside of the house. Why? Well, it's the biggest part of the insurance policy, right? Your dwelling is usually in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Other structures, 10, 20, $50,000, not typically hundreds of thousands of dollars. So why would I want to spend time talking about the other components of the insurance policy and not just the dwelling? Well, because they get damaged, and that additional damage is sometimes the difference between whether or not a claim is worthy of filing or isn't. And sometimes it's the difference of whether or not you even have a claim. So let's talk about losses outside the home. What does that mean? That means other structures. It means personal property. And something we often don't think about, it also includes losses that occur away from the home. Okay. So the insurance policy goes well beyond the dwelling itself. And so you need to start thinking about the property as more than just the dwelling. Consider the landscaping. Consider the other structures. Consider your personal property. Consider the trips that the person takes. What happens at the airport? When you're doing a property inspection, make it a property inspection, not a dwelling inspection. What's in it for you? Probably a much better claim. Other structures. What does that mean? Well, other structures are sheds, barns, fencing, gazebos, detached garages, in-ground pools. All of these things are other structures. Coverage B is typically 10% of the dwelling. Now, some of you have seen larger numbers like 20%. I have seen larger numbers than that even. I had a client down in South Jersey who had a 3-stall detached garage with a marble floor. And it was well appointed. And why did he have that? Well, he had a 1966 Corvette, mint condition, in that garage. And so it was his showcase. That was his man cave, if you will. And so he had that listed. I think his home was about $350,000 and the garage was another $110,000. So, that was a little bit more than 10%. But typically it's going to be 10%. And it can be increased if the insured's request. So you can see here a couple of examples of other structures that might require more than a 10% coverage on your dwelling. You should be looking at these to be able to let the client know whether or not they're properly insured on their other structures. So before you go into the home, if you can, or before you sit down, you should just take a walk around the property just to make sure you know what's there before you do the policy review. So coverage B covers other structures that are set apart by clear space. Oftentimes, to make it really clear and to help people understand, other structures do not share a foundation with the dwelling. Does that help? So your other structures are going to be not part of that dwelling foundation. They're going to have separate footing on the property. And that's typically going to be an other structure. So, for example, how about if the garage has a walkway or a breezeway between the kitchen and the garage? Is that a detached garage? Yeah, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. It is attached by a breezeway, but it is separate. It's a separate structure. Okay. So it is in fact a detached garage. So dog houses, pool houses, tiki bars, some types of landscaping. So for example, I had a client up in North Jersey. Wind and rain caused damage to the home, but it was not significant. Basically, we had some shingles missing on a small roof, on a roof of part of the garage. We had a couple of gutters that had been dislodged, and it really wasn't enough for me to write a claim. But then I went into the backyard, and a retaining wall was collapsed in the backyard. And so I wasn't sure, is that part of the property or not? Well, it's an improvement to the property and it is a structure. So it is in fact covered in the policy. Some types of landscaping are in fact covered in the policy. So it depends on what it's made of, and it depends on how it's set up. So in this case, the retaining wall was also attached to the pool house. They had an in-ground pool, and so it actually was covered. So that actually became a good claim, and I got the client paid for it. So these are just some ideas, but you got to take a look around. You've got to look beyond just the house itself. So what are some of the things that could cause damage? Well, we talked about wind, trees falling on fences. The fence by itself is probably not going to be a good claim, because a lot of the fences today are built in little small components. And so if one section of fence gets damaged, oftentimes the only replacement required by the insurance company is that one section, because it's in current production and they can get it. And so all they have to do is really do that one section, maybe one of the poles, but it's not going to amount to $1,000. It may be in the hundreds of dollars, but probably not thousands. Now exactly. And so sometimes it's worth it just to write the claim and let the adjuster identify whether or not it's something we can get the client compensated for. When in doubt, write it up, always. But never promise the client that you're going to get them compensated. Always say them, we're going to make sure that it gets addressed. All right. Those words are the best words. If you need to write that down, just write it down. You're never going to tell a client that you're going to get them paid. You're going to make sure that the item gets addressed. That covers so much territory. And the insurance company is never advised at that point. So why not? Anybody have any question about any of these items here? Remember that other structures is covered under the same conditions as the dwelling. So if your dwelling is covered on all risk, then your other structures is also covered as all risk. That is not the case with personal property, heads up, but that is the case with your other structures. So when you have buildings as part of the other structures, fire and smoke, and that can be secondhand smoke. Okay. So you could have had the fire on a property next door, and it caused damage to your house as well as to your shed or to your pool house, um, I I I actually have forgotten to write in the pool house as an issue when on a smoke claim I had, and the adjuster actually made sure that it got covered. They were smart enough to put it in there, but I forgot to put it in as my notes. So that's an important thing. Mower strikes, and that means the mower hitting the house itself or a rock being thrown at the house or at the shed or at the pool house. Plumbing. I have been in a number of homes where there is plumbing from the home out to the garage for a sink. The best one of these is that what was that commercial where the girl had her shed, the she shed, right? The she shed had plumbing in it. So the plumbing there it has the same thing. If it gets blocked up, it could cause a blockage into the house as well. So that's all covered by your plumbing. Vandalism, again, I'll have some pictures on that as well. Or vehicles. I had a claim down in South Jersey where a couple of teenagers took their cars off road and did donuts in a guy's front yard and damaged his driveway as well. That was an insurable loss. Trees. I've had trees falling into in-ground pools. I've had trees falling into above ground pools. Robert and I worked on one that was a tree that fell on an above ground pool, and we got that client paid very well. There was also damage to the home where there's shingles missing on the roof. So, sure. An above ground pool is a personal property item. Okay. An in-ground pool is another structure. Now, why is that significant? Because remember, I just said personal property is not all risk. Personal property is only named perils. Okay. So you can't have an all risk event occur to an above ground pool. So let's say, for example, a kid goes swimming and has a knife that is that's out and it punctures the pool and damages the pool. Is that coverable by insurance? The easy answer on that is no, it's not. But I would still write it up and I would call it vandalism. Okay. But in effect, no, that's not covered because it is that's an all risk claim. All right. So now that fencing. So, you know, uh, you can see here on an in-ground pool, an object tearing the pool liner is covered. Why? All risk, right? If this was an above ground pool, that would not work. Driveways and walkways. Again, a tree damages the driveway. That can be a covered claim. Fire, vandalism. Here's that picture I was telling you about. Just so you know, that's Nancy Pelosi's garage. Sure. The reason for that is that it has it has to hit something. All right. So in this case, it hit the driveway, which is considered part of the other structures. If it were to have just landed in the yard, it is not an insurable loss. Okay. But if it damages the pool, then it is. All right. If it damages the house, it has to damage some improvement to the property. It's your auto insurance. And your auto insurance will not pay for that tree to be removed. So that's still going to be on you. So you're going to look really carefully at that driveway to look for damage. Because if you can find damage on that driveway, then you're going to be able to get the client paid to have the tree removed as well. You see, oftentimes that client depends on your ability to help them because they don't know how to help themselves. They just don't. There's no client that's going to know enough to know that they need to find damage on that driveway in order to get paid to have that tree removed. But you do now. And have the driveway repaired. Fencing. Again, fencing is a tough one. I've actually even done where a car hit an electronic fence, commercial fence, a gateway, the gate. And because the deductible was $2,500, it wasn't a claim. So if it's just the fence, I always try to look for something more. So because it's going to be difficult to get the insurance company to pay enough to make it worthwhile to file that claim. So don't just look at the house, look around. If you find damage like shingles missing on a detached garage, I'm going to look really hard at the screen doors of the house to see if they've been bent by the wind. I'm going to look at the shingles on the main house to see if there's anything that's loose. I'm going to look at the window frames to see if wind has driven rain into the house. I'm going to look real carefully at the rest of the house and the rest of the property because I have the other structure to help build out the expense of that claim. If there's storm damage to the house, there's probably storm damage to the other structures and vice versa. So it's always really good to take a look at that because something there may be more visible and it will make you look harder at the home. All right, so now let's talk about personal property. Personal property includes all items that are left outside or sometimes in the garage or in a shed. This is stuff that's on premise, not off premise, but on premise. These also can add to a claim. Let's say, for example, you have a hailstorm and you're trying to identify hail damage. How easy is it for you to get up on the roof? Right? None of you guys, Patrick's going, no, not me. I'm not going up on that roof. That's right. So how else are you going to identify hail damage? Right there. Right there. Right there. Right there. All right. Take some sidewalk chalk with you and roll that sidewalk chalk up on that soft metal and see if there's indents in that soft metal. If you've got hail damage to the air conditioning unit on the outside of the house, to the grill, to the patio furniture, to the swing set. Okay. If you've got hail damage that you can see there, you've got hail damage to that roof. Cool. Okay. So your personal property can be a front end indicator of a big claim that you may not be able to really view very well because it's inaccessible. These things make it accessible. So what's included? Well, patio furniture, grills. Plants are typically, I would say no, okay, to typically for plants. Plants are typically considered landscaping, and there's an endorsement that people can get for landscaping. And so if you see that the house is well manicured and that they've got beautiful trees and flowering bushes and stuff like that, I would ask the client how much they have invested in their landscaping. And then I would talk to them about landscape insurance. It's an endorsement that can be added to the policy. So I normally don't consider plants part of the other or part of personal property. Somebody has something to say?
Isn't landscaping plants more of something that you find like on a commercial policy?
Oh, landscaping is something you'll find on a residential policy. It's normally set up at 10% of the dwelling or 5% of the dwelling. I've seen it at both of those.
I think I've seen it. Well, I haven't seen it in an actual policy, but when I was studying to get my license, I think it's like a $250 limit up to $1,000 for homeowners. And then
no, that's the standard policy. You can get an endorsement for landscaping that will give you up to $1,000 per tree with a total amount of up to 5 or 10% of the dwelling.
Okay.
Yep. Mowers, vehicles that are used to service the premises. So if you have a four-wheeler that you keep on premise and you don't drive it on the road, it's not licensed, it actually is considered personal property. Also, a vehicle, a regular car that you're working on that does not have either the motor or the transmission, one or the other, installed, at that point, it is not able to be registered or licensed and therefore insured as a separate line item as a automobile on an automobile policy. It is actually considered personal property at that point. So I've got a client who was building a 1954 Chevy truck, and he showed it to me. He was very proud of it, and he should be. It was beautiful. I made sure that he was aware of the fact that because the transmission was not installed, that could still be considered personal property. And so now he is very careful to make sure that he does not install the transmission until he's ready to register. So those are some things that you just need to be aware of. And the better you know your client, the more you're going to be able to offer suggestions and recommendations for them that are going to be more tailored for them. So that's what we talk about when we're talking about untitled vehicles, okay? We're talking about cars or boats that don't have the engine installed or do not have the transmission installed. Watercraft that are less than $1,000. So this would be like canoes, sailboats, stuff like that are not motorized. So what kind of damage? Again, you're talking about wind damage, theft, hail. I've had a number of instances where I've been able to get personal property covered under hail, vandalism, fire, and smoke. Fire and smoke is probably where I've gotten the most coverage as far as personal property goes. So these add-ons are really important because they really increase the claim quickly. They can, it doesn't take a lot of items to add another $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to the value of a claim. And when you're talking about, your fee on that, that's going to end up increasing your fee dramatically. So these things can be very, very helpful. Here's an area that nobody thinks about: losses away from home. What is covered? Personal property coverage is available in your homeowner's policy for you when you're carrying it with you anywhere in the world. So if you're, and in fact, there was a case on this where somebody was down in Aruba, had their wallet stolen, and had some jewelry taken from their hotel room. All of that was covered by their policy on their home because they had jewelry coverage and they had money coverage up to $500. So the money that was lost was recovered through the insurance policy, as well as the jewelry.
Paul, got a question for you because I had
Yes,
a
ma'am.
situation like that. So if it's not stated in the policy and they're traveling overseas and they're asked to take out, I guess we call traveling insurance because they don't have it in their homeowner's policy, isn't it good to do that?
Sure, because that'll act as your primary.
Okay.
But most homeowners don't realize that they have this coverage in their policy. So they'll buy the other insurance because they don't realize that they're already covered. Now, their coverage might not be as comprehensive as they want it to be. Remember, jewelry, for example, if you don't have that scheduled,
Right.
is typically at about $3,000. So is that enough? Well, I don't know. It depends on, if you're on a cruise ship and, you've got some formal dinners that you're going to attend, you might be bringing your fur and you might be bringing your jewelry with you on that so that you can really show off and you can kind of, enjoy it. In that case, you may have $10,000 worth of jewelry in that ship room. Okay. So you're going to need to have additional coverage beyond what the basic policy coverage is in most cases. Does that answer your question, Renee?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? So, theft of, damage to personal property while you're traveling. And again, this is where you've got to watch out for those limits, right? Limits include jewelry, furs, china, silverware, collections, right? All those different items that we talk about on the policy coverage reviews. Those are where you've got limits. Cash has a limit on it. You want to make sure that the client knows what those limits are. But if they need insurance beyond that, they can do as Renee was talking about, get the traveler's insurance, or they can add it as a scheduled line item in their policy and then remove it as soon as the trip is done. Remember, you can change your policy whenever you want. You can always add to the policy and take away from the policy. So the coverage is what is in effect at the time of loss. Theft from stolen vehicle or from vehicles, stolen luggage, muggings, forgery. Forgery is another thing. Again, there's some significant limits on identity theft. And as most of you guys know, I sell another product for identity theft. I do not recommend you just maintain the identity theft component of a homeowner's insurance policy. It's very, very sketchy. It doesn't cover very much. So if somebody is really concerned about identity theft, they should get a real identity theft product. And if you want to offer something like that, let me know. But that's something that is an entirely different kind of beast. Okay. So forgery is covered, but it's limited in the coverage. And again, most people have no idea how comprehensive this homeowner's insurance policy is. Most people think that it just covers them if their house catches fire or if a tornado comes through. They have no idea that, you know, they can get their floors replaced because of an ice cube that falls on the floor, or that they can get their grill replaced because of a hailstorm. They just have no idea. So being able to help people understand the inclusiveness of this homeowner's policy really adds value to the client. And it makes you, again, it makes you look very, very professional in knowing what your topic is. So how do you use this? It's going to turn a decent claim into a great claim, because now when you have a claim, look beyond the four walls. Look beyond the four walls for damage, especially if you see missing shingles. Look for wind damage. Now, let's just kind of do a review of this, because I think that that's probably the most common damage that I really want you to consider on this thing. So let's talk about wind damage. So you're going up to a home and you notice a couple of shingles missing off the front elevation on the roof. What other things can you look for to increase the value of this claim beyond just the elevation of that one side of the roof?
Around the windows to see if water damage got inside.
Excellent. So take a look on the windows on that side of the house where the shingles are missing to see if the wind was extensive enough that it created a pressure that allowed for rain to come into the house through the windows. Good. What else?
Screen door.
Right inside the front door on the floor.
Yeah, look inside, look at the front door, see if there was a pressure issue there. But also, Kevin, regarding the front door, if there's a screen door, see if it's been bent. Okay, see if it was, you know how a screen door will sometimes get thrown open? That'll bend the frame. Okay, so see if the frame got bent on the screen door. That's another good value. What else? Come on, guys, think. Wayne, you got something for me. Go for it.
Yeah, when I had hail damage to my house, the actual screens, window screens were where I had holes in them. But
right, so you could have holes in the window screens from debris or from hail hitting the windows. Good. What else?
The heat pump on the outside of the house.
Great. A pump or maybe the air conditioning unit on the outside of the house. Did it get damaged? Is it bent? Is there hail damage to it, or did something get thrown into it and bend it? What else? So far, we're still working with just the dwelling, guys. It's as if I hadn't done this presentation at all.
The shed.
The shed. Take a look at the shed. See if there's damage to the shed. Are there shingles missing off the shed? Is there any siding missing off the shed? What else?
The grill.
Less. Okay, that's your last shot. Right. See if did the grill get blown over? If it got blown over, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to get it replaced. What else?
See if any of the gutters are bent from vibration.
Excellent. Excellent. Check the gutters. What else?
Can you use the sidewalk chalk on the gutters too, if you can reach them, and see if there's dimples?
Yeah, for hail, there's a couple of other things too. You can also check to see if any of the sand granules are down at the bottom of the downspouts. That's also a really good way of identifying hail damage. What else?
I know you covered gazebos.
Sure. Maybe a tree limb hit the gazebo, damaged the gazebo. What else?
About the swimming pools.
There could be a limb that got into the swimming pool. Maybe it even scratched or damaged the lining.
Here's
What
a good
else?
one for you, Paul. Tree, some big storm, you get a tree limb, you got an above ground pool, it's got a liner, obviously, tree limb punctures a hole in that, water comes out. Now it's in your house. What do?
Covered loss.
Privacy fencing could have been damaged.
Fencing. Yep. See if there's any damage to the fencing from the wind. Good job, Wayne. Excellent. You see, there's a lot of things here, guys. How about the driveway? Did a tree limb hit the driveway? If there's landscaping endorsement, did they lose any plants? Did they lose any trees? Is there debris that needs to be removed from the premises? There's a lot of items here. And so you need to look, once you've identified a claim, that claim can go from being just a decent claim into being a great claim. She's listening. Good job, Natasha. Yep. The other thing is that oftentimes we come up with damage that it's just not enough to write a claim. It just is not enough damage. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to turn that into a viable claim because there's additional damage that the homeowner didn't realize occurred? Oftentimes that's going to be that storm door. That's going to be damage to the shed. It's going to be damage to a detached garage or maybe an attached garage. But there's going to be additional damage somewhere on that property that you can point to include as part of that peril. And this is going to add money to that claim and turn what could be just a marginal or maybe a closed without pay into something that's viable, something that we can actually get the client paid for. Yeah. What Robert's saying there is that when I look at damage, I always try to put a story together in my head of what happened. You know, the wind blew in on the front of the house and caused the shingles to be missing there. So let me look and see if that wind might have caused other damage to the front of the house. All right, well, the wind caused that damage. Now, maybe because of that wind, there could have been some water that got into the house. So maybe I should check and see if there's water damage on a ceiling someplace, or maybe there's damage in the attic. So always try to build the story, put that in your head as to what happened, get that story together, because that's what's going to make you realize that claim is valuable. Sometimes a homeowner will do themselves a disservice by trying to tell the story to you because they don't know how to put the story together properly. So they might tell a story about, damage to the ceiling in their kitchen that came because the daughter was playing in the tub and splashed water. But you also see that there's damage underneath the sink because there was a bad pipe. And so water was discharged from the sink. Well, that's two different perils. So in my mind, I don't even remember the daughter in the tub. All I'm worried about is that sink, and that sink caused the damage on the ceiling in the downstairs, because that's one peril, that's one deductible, that's one claim. Otherwise, I'm looking at 2 claims. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So if you can tell a story and that story can include the damages that you see, now you've got an ability to get that paid.
Paul, I got a question. When it comes to smoke damage, is there like a time limit on when you can file? Or because I have a situation right now and she's fighting us, she doesn't want to use the smoke claim, and the field adjuster is saying like that you got a good smoke claim versus the other claim, which was rendered.
If the adjuster believes that they can sell that smoke claim, then you should definitely be going for the smoke claim. Usually, like anything else, it's a year.
Okay.
What she's worried about is that the insurance company oftentimes, and maybe she's been victim to this, and maybe this will ring a bell with some of you as well. You tell them that you have smoke claim from a year ago, and they say, excuse me, why are you waiting so long to notify us of something that happened a year ago? Don't you know you've got to make a timely claim? How can you possibly believe that 1 year is timely? And they're going to deny the claim.
Okay.
That's what she's afraid of. What she doesn't understand is that our adjusters know how to fight that argument.
Right. Okay. We're using the smoke claim.
Oh, yeah. Always. Renee, I love smoke claims.
I know.
Renee, just think about that person in, we got them paid real well in Maryland.
I know, in Maryland. My son-in-law, his property, he was only going after the shingles, and Paul found smoke in his house and on the outdoors, the shingle. It was amazing.
Happy client.
Oh, it
Guys,
was tens of thousands.
when you go in a home that has a wood or a gas fireplace, not an electric, but a gas or a wood fireplace, try not to salivate. Try not to have the drool coming out of the side of your mouth. Okay. Just try not to, because, oh, yeah, no, that's bad. But smoke claims, it's a rare occasion where you're going to have a smoke claim that's less than $10,000. I'm just saying that it's rare that you're going to have one that's less than $10,000. I've had them. I've done them that are like $5,000 or $6,000. Yeah, but you know what? It was one where the insurance agent looked at me and said, "You've got to be kidding me," because it was so light on the sponge. He said, "You've got to be kidding me." I said, "Well, listen, if it was really heavy, you'd be telling me that it happened over and over again. So how do you want it? Do you want do you want an honest claim, or do you want a fake claim?" He shut up, and I got the client paid. But yeah, smoke claims are great. If you can do a smoke claim, and I've even gotten in a home, Hindu home, where they burn candles. They have an altar and they burn candles in the home. I actually got them covered as well for smoke damage. So just because it looks like it might not be covered, don't ignore it. It may still be covered, and let the adjuster make the determination as to whether or not they can get you covered or not. Smoke claims are wonderful. So, though it's called homeowners insurance, it covers a lot more than just the home. So make sure you're doing a full property inspection. not just a home inspection. Now, for the residential property inspection, $25 stimulus that we've got out there, I believe that the only pictures required